I'm Ben Ruffett, the creator of Siege Town, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Ben Ruffett about Siege Town. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Ben is originally from Ontario, but now resides in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Ben is a creator and writer of Siege Town, his first graphic novel. For this project, Ben is joined by artist Andre Portilla from Neothermic and colorist Christian Ramirez. Siege Town is an 81-page graphic novel in full color. It follows the story of two travelers crossing rural Russia in the 1950s who wake to find the inn they are staying at surrounded by an angry mob. They reluctantly find themselves battling for their lives in the midst of a battle they know nothing about. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Ben Ruffett about Siege Town. So, Ben Ruffett, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I appreciate your time. What I usually do to start off the interview is ask the creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering, do you remember what was the first comic book that you read?
Yeah, for sure. The first ones that I can clearly remember was I got the Batman vs. Predator set. It was a 3-part run on Dark Horse, and that was the first time I'd kind of followed a series from beginning to end. So it was kind of a graphic, violent book. I also remember too getting. It was probably right around the same time. The Sergeant Rock. Mm-hmm. They did like a 50th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, and I remember really enjoying that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Was that just as violent as the Batman Predator one, or no?
It was, yeah. It was a pretty bleak comic for sure.
Wow. Yeah, not the most inspiring, but certainly I'm sure the artwork was good, that's for sure. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that leads me to my next question. Who or what inspires you to create today?
Well, for the story we're talking about specifically right now, I think it had a lot to do with different kind of 80s and 90s VHS tapes I would watch. There was actually a Halifax movie I really enjoyed just called Siege. It was about some people kind of defending their apartment from kind of a violent gang that was attacking them. The police happened to be on strike, so they were kind of on their own and fighting off this mob. There's quite a few like that. There's another one I really liked called Tenement. There's anything kind of with the angry mob. I was really getting into just, Frankenstein's monster. Even that, that Sergeant Rock comic kind of, the tired GIs defending Bastogne from the German hordes. And
right.
I'd always kind of been fascinated by those stories. Another one I really liked was Fox and the Hound, the novel based on the Disney movie. It kind of has that same kind of device of like the novel's kind of about hunts, a lot more realistic than the Disney film, and just kind of goes into a fox kind of always being hunted by a pack of hounds, and just kind of that mentality of the mob against a small group has always interested me.
Did you remember a movie called Attack the Block? John Boyega and Jodie Whittaker were in it. Same sort of thing. It's more of a science fiction horror type thing, but they were trying to defend their apartment building from these aliens.
Oh, okay. I don't think I saw that one.
No, that might be something to check out too. But it's sort of old. It's about 10 years old now, but certainly had John Boyega from Star Wars and certainly Jodie Whittaker, who's the current Doctor Who in it. So that was kind of neat. There you go. Lots of stuff. So you mentioned Siege, and we're here to talk about your latest Kickstarter project graphic novel called Siege Town. So I wonder if you could talk a bit about the story and maybe the origins as well.
It's kind of about two men traveling across Russia in the 1950s. And they stop at an inn for the night to kind of rest on their travels. And they wake up in the morning and they find that an angry mob has surrounded the inn. And they're kind of out of the loop as to what's going on, but they kind of reluctantly find themselves helping the innkeeper defend the inn just out of their own necessity. And then as the story kind of progresses, there's some moments of violence that they reluctantly take part in that just kind of keeps raising the stakes and kind of escalating the severity of how people are acting. And part of what I kind of wanted to do was all kind of those siege movies I was referencing. There's always kind of a clear good guy and a clear bad guy. It's almost always the people defending are the good guys, being attacked by the bad guys. So I kind of wanted to just muddy that idea a little bit and make it unclear, at least a little more unclear, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And
sure.
Just kind of played with those ideas a bit.
Yeah, very intriguing. That's for sure. You're the writer on the project, but you also had people helping you out, like your collaborators. I wonder if you could talk a wee bit about who helped you on this project.
I haven't actually met face-to-face the artist or the colorist. They're in South America. I'm in Nova Scotia. But I had met them just online. The artist's name is Andre Portilla. He'd done another comic called Neothermic, which is kind of like a dinosaurs with guns type comic. So he had sent me some drawings and things, and I just really enjoyed his artwork. And then the colorist was someone that Andre knew and brought on board. I guess they had worked together before.
You mentioned that you're in Nova Scotia and these folks are somewhere else. How did you connect with them? Was it someone introduced you, or you just found them off randomly?
Yeah, it was just online. I think how it actually happened was I had a Facebook group for kind of low budget horror movies and things like that. I used to do horror movie screenings before COVID. I had made some posts about writing a comic book and looking for an artist, and I started getting replies through that. So I have no idea how that post actually made its way to South America, but somehow it did, and they
glad you
contacted me. Yeah.
Well, what about the collaboration process? I mean, certainly, we've got the internet to help us out a bit, but was it like you provide them with the entire script and you said go to it, or was it a back and forth process?
So I had written the entire script. I sent Andre the script, and then initially he was sending me kind of like page outlines. It was really clear we were on the same kind of wavelength there. Probably like halfway into the book, maybe even a little less than that. I just kind of gave him free rein and he ran with it. Yeah, I was really happy with how all his art came out.
Sure. Was there any point in the project where he came back to you and said, oh, you might want to think about doing this, or did the artwork inspire you to weave the story a certain way that you hadn't thought of before?
Yeah, I didn't really change any of the writing. I think a little bit of it was altered a bit, just like when we were adding text and things. I was like, I really like this panel. I don't want this guy saying 5 sentences anymore and covering up too much art. I'm going to condense it a bit down to 3 sentences and not have to cover, this part of the panel. And so that was one thing I really like. Overall, it's not a very dialogue driven book. It's more about kind of the action, but once I started getting the drawings, I started cutting the dialogue a tiny bit more, just because I did really enjoy his art. Yeah.
Sure. Now, I noticed certainly with any Kickstarter project, there's lots of incentives. And when I was looking through them, I noticed that there's a DVD of the movie Muzzle Flash. I wonder if you could explain what's the connection between Muzzle Flash and Siege Town.
For sure. So that is a movie, a very low budget movie I made with some friends just before kind of COVID hit, 2019, I guess. And it was kind of a detectives investigating a satanic cult action movie. So we had gotten DVDs printed for it, and I still have a large quantity of them at home. And this being my first graphic novel, I didn't have a lot of rewards to offer, but I feel like this is kind of a similar kind of idea. They're both kind of action movies with, moments of kind of over the top violence in them. And yeah,
Cool.
I think if someone enjoyed one, they would probably enjoy the other.
Right. Well, we've talked a wee bit about Siege Town, and I'm wondering, do you have any other up-and-coming projects that you can talk about?
I'm going to see how this book goes. I've really enjoyed the process of writing a graphic novel, and I've really enjoyed the process of seeing a talented illustrator kind of bring it to life for me. So I definitely like to do another one. Really, the only thing hindering that process is just the financial commitment to a book. I think
Right.
I'm quite a bit in the hole at this point. So hopefully I can move copies of this and put it towards another book. And I do have some ideas that I've kind of bounced off some friends. But yeah, I would definitely like to keep going with this. It has been a very very satisfying experience to kind of see it all come together much better than I anticipated. Usually, usually when I have an idea, it never really turns out how it is in my head initially. Mm-hmm. I think this has been the closest, probably most successful idea I've had come together. So.
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. Now, I know that we're on the cusp of, when we're recording this, the cusp of things opening up. COVID restrictions are lifting a bit. Do you have any thoughts about promoting your book at conventions or festivals?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely enjoy that. I've kind of just started looking into that more seriously. And it is a weird time with things opening up. Mm-hmm. With kind of the what ifs of all these scenarios. But yeah, I definitely would like to kind of have more actual physical interactions with people to tell them about it and hopefully try to show them how exciting it is. And yeah, I'd definitely be looking into it.
Sure. Now, you mentioned earlier in our conversation that before COVID you did movie screenings. Do you think maybe you might be doing that again too once things die down a bit?
I would definitely love to do that. For the last 15 years or so, I've gotten really lucky in finding kind of hard to find VHS tapes. Got a pretty extensive collection of low budget movies and things like that. So for a long time for the movie screenings, I was doing I'd set these rules for myself where I had to screen like original VHS tapes of movies. And it's been a really fun endeavor, and it's kind of allowed me to expose people to lots of movies that were kind of on the cusp of kind of disappearing almost. Some of them are so obscure. So
right.
I've enjoyed that. I'd love to keep doing that.
Great. So where do you recommend that people go to find out more about your current and your future projects, either online or through social media?
I'm still kind of working on making a website, but right now I just have a Siege Town page on Facebook. And then I just started as well, a Siege Town Instagram account, just posting some of the artwork and things like that on it.
Great. Well, Ben, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
Just, I'm really proud of the book and excited about it. And I hope even a fraction of that excitement translates to other people enough that they're interested to check it out. I tried to keep it based kind of in realism and hopefully explored some interesting kind of ethical dilemmas that coincidentally feel a lot more prevalent just the way the world is going right now. So,
thanks to Ben for the chat. You can discover more about Siege Town on Instagram at siege_town and on Facebook at facebook.com/siegetown. And you can discover more about Siege Town on Kickstarter. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. please send your feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2022.